vosso reino, seja feita a vossa vontade, assim na terra como no céu, assim na terra como no céu. O pão nosso de cada dia, dai-nos hoje, ó Senhor. Perdoai as nossas dívidas, assim como perdoamos aos nossos devedores. Não deixeis cair em tentação, mas livrai-nos de todo o mal. Não deixeis cair em tentação, mas livrai-nos de todo o mal.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. We are here again this week with another presentation by the United States Spiritist Federation. For those who have been following us, we have been for quite some time already inviting guest speakers from all over the world to come and to visit us and to give us a talk on subjects that are very much related to our needs today. So today we have our dear friend Anne Sinclair. I met Anne 27 years ago when I used to live in London. And it was a great time. It was a time of great exchanges, of, growing up together in terms of spiritism. And it's great to see both of us here after so many years and decades. Very soon it's going to be 3 decades, right? And but it's still committed to the work that we are doing. As always, we like to start with a prayer. But before we start with a prayer, I'm going to already introduce Anne to you. And then we do the prayer and we invite Anne to start her presentation. She's going to be talking to us today about reflections on pain, which is a very important topic for all of us. Anne Sinclair has been studying Spiritism for over 30 years in the UK, participating in study groups, mediumship, and giving talks. She was involved in the foundation of the Spiritist Family Group and has been an interpreter for Divaldo Franco in the UK and Ireland for over 30 years. She is the mother of 2 young women and has been working in healthcare for the last 15 years as a registered midwife and public health nurse. So now we invite you all to join us in prayers, asking the good spirits, the benefactors, for their protection. They understand that we are doing our best in terms of maintaining the flame of Spiritism is spreading all over the world, especially in times like the ones we are living now, so that people can find consolation, understanding, enlightenment, and above all, to feel close to them the love of our brother Jesus. We ask our Heavenly Creator for protection and guidance, especially for our guest speaker and our friend and today, so that through her words, her inspiration, we may reach as many hearts as possible to soothe their pains and their understanding of the need to go through struggles also may be broader. And we pray for the assistance of this work and the continuation of spreading this knowledge of love and enlightenment through all corners of this planet. And we ask permission to start this talk. So, Anne, welcome again, and now is with you, okay?
Thank you. So, first of all, I would like to thank Shusara for her kind invitation, for her trust in me to give this talk to you today. I am a little bit new to this technology, so bear with in case I do anything silly. I have a presentation that serves as a bit of an anchor, but sometimes I go slightly off presentation, so don't be worried if that happens. My talk should last about 40-45 minutes, which is the known time that people can concentrate for. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them after that. And you can put them through the live comments. Hopefully I can help you with those. So the topic that came to mind to talk about today is reflections on pain. So I start with a health warning. We're going to talk about pain, but the most important thing to remember is that if any of you who are listening in or hearing this later on, if you're suffering from great pain or difficulties, don't feel that the light way that I speak, that I am in any way minimizing your experience of pain. For my key word is what I learned in the pain clinic when I was studying to be a midwife. The consultant said to me on my first day, he says, if you take anything from the pain clinic, take this. The pain is what the patient says it is. Okay. So we will talk about pain, but I think everybody will have their own take on it. And, hopefully we can have some reflections about it. And it's not about having the whole idea, but just something to think about. So next slide. Next one. There, perfect. So when I say the word pain, what comes to your mind? So just think for a second before we go on. If I say pain, what is your first inner reaction? And just sort of hold on to what comes to you when you think about pain. And as I said before, pain we'll talk about it, but it has a very strong subjective element to it. Next slide. Thank you. So I went to the dictionary because anybody who knows me, I always start by thinking, well, what actually is pain? So let me go to the dictionary. So I went to the dictionary and I looked up in Chambers, which is a recognized dictionary. And I was quite surprised to find this definition. It was in that order: pain, punishment, suffering, hardship. I must say, I was not expecting to find this word punishment there. I was expecting to find suffering or hardship, but I wasn't really connecting with punishment. And I thought, why is punishment there? And what has punishment got to do with pain? So we'll come back to that. But one of the things that we need to think about when we are talking about anything is about our definitions. And the spirits in the spirits book, one of my favorite phrases is when they say, call things whatever you like, as long as you are agreed on what you're talking about. So words can have different weights for different people, different meanings, or like they can have several meanings and one comes before the other. And so sometimes we just need to check with one another that we're actually talking about the same thing. So next slide, please. Yeah. So I started looking further about definitions of pain, and the International Association for the Study of Pain, it's an association that is very focused on it, has given me an interesting definition there, which says it's an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with actual or potential tissue damage. So this is a little bit sort of more relating to the biological, I think, to the body, talking about tissue damage. But it says unpleasant sensory and emotional experience. So those are kind of two key words there, unpleasant and experience. And that made me think, okay, so we're talking about, in general, when we say the word pain, most of us will have some kind of negative thought about it, thinking, oh, this was something unpleasant. So I can kind of connect with that. And I can connect with the fact that it's an experience that is something quite subjective. So let's just think about it a little bit further. So next slide, please. So, is pain a bad thing? What do you think? What is the reason that we have pain in our lives? Physical pain, emotional pain? And looking everywhere, we think about the world we live in, where there is pain everywhere. There is not one human being on earth that will go through life without suffering some type of pain. So I say pain is part of our condition of being here on earth, of being human, of undergoing some kind of pain. So without being masochistic, but thinking actually, well, pain is part of our humanity. So what is pain actually doing? What is the function of pain? Why do we have pain? And I think of like in the Old Testament saying there will be gnashing, there'll be, crying and gnashing of teeth in the valley of pain. That's us here, who will be born in the valley of pain. So we can see that this idea that pain is inherent, existing in our lives, goes all the way back in history. This is something that we are carrying with us. So I was interested to think about how do we think about pain nowadays in the 21st century. And because if we think in the past, maybe people had less chance of doing something about their pain, or maybe not. But here now we have the advancement of lots of science, and we have some ways of dealing with pain. And how is that actually working for us? So next slide, please. Oh, one before that one. Thank you. So one of the difficulties when we're talking, I will start from the biological and go to the emotional, okay? We'll do that journey in that direction, because I think most of us can immediately connect to physical pain. It's okay, we all have had experiences in our childhood when we've fallen over, we've scratched our knees, they've been bleeding, or broken a bone, or we've had toothache, or we've had whatever, we've had a disease, an illness that's caused us pain. And in order to know how much is your pain, how bad is the pain, there was never any way to measure it. So they kind of come up with this kind of easy guide that we can see there, with smiley faces going from smiling to crying, saying no pain to unimaginable, unspeakable pain. And so that then the doctors or the nurses would ask, can you show me here from a scale of 0 to 10, how bad is this pain? And so what will people will do, they'll say, oh, it's a 5 or it's an 8. So for the same injury, same type of injury, different people will have indicate different types of faces there. So some person might break a foot and they might say, oh, my pain is 5, but another person might say it's 9. And so that's the important part when we're thinking about physical pain, is going back to the first thing I said, the pain is what the person says it is, because it is a subjective experience. So you can't say to somebody, no, your pain is not that bad, because it is what it is for them. So you need to learn to say, so you're telling me that your pain is a 9, or you're telling me that your pain is a 4, and I accept that. Whether I think, oh, if I broke my foot, oh, I would think it's a 5. That's irrelevant to the person, because they're the ones suffering the pain. So when we think about it in that way, so that we have an empathetic way of looking at pain and helping people to say, so in their experience of pain in their life, they're saying, oh, I broke my foot, it's hurting like an 8. It's the worst one I've had so far. When I scratched my knees, it was more like a 2 or 3, it was less. And so people will put their different experiences into this kind of grading, and they will do mentally, they will think about where the pain sits. But let's go on to the next slide. Oh, one before, there. So we're talking about pain associated with the physical body. So as Shusara said, I mean, my background is I'm a midwife. So a lot of the experiences of pain I have relate to childbirth. And I also had 2 children. So childbirth for some people is considered the worst pain in the world. But for other people, they have their babies with no pain. So interesting. So we're thinking about what people call pain. So our physical body, which we can relate to because we are in a material world, and as much as we are spirit using a physical body, sometimes we are more aware of our physical body than of our true nature. So we've been living this material life in this material physical body, and this is what's become more familiar to us. So let's think a little bit about pain functioning in our body. So we could say, I mean, there are different ways of classifying pain, and you can read many different books. But thinking about this is I'm taken from books on childbirth. So firstly, you could say you can have a physical trigger. So nociceptors, these are receptors on our skin or our muscles or on our joints that will send a message to the brain saying, alert, alert, pain. Something's going on here that might damage the skin, might damage the nerves, might damage the muscles. So if I was going to step on a nail, or if I was going to put my finger in a fire, and if I didn't have a reaction of pain, I put my finger in the fire or stepping on the nail, I wouldn't think about it, I wouldn't care about it, and I would injure my finger or my foot in such a way that could be detrimental to the functioning of my body. So the impression that nerve sends from the place where the action is happening up to the brain and back down again makes me remove my finger or lift up my foot and go, ow, and like say, that's not good, I won't be doing that again because I had a reaction of pain. And this is a basic functioning in our body that helps to preserve the integrity of our body. There are people who might have a condition in which they don't feel pain, and then they have a serious problem with injuries all the time, because having the pain protects us from injuring our body. And since we are little, we go like little kids, you say, don't put your finger in the fire, you will burn yourself. Don't put your finger on the pan, it's hot. And sometimes some people decide to experiment nevertheless. They will experiment, they will hurt themselves, they will be burned or hurt, and then they will say, okay, even if they decide that they will do it again, their body will react because already you have that learning that is not good for your integrity. We also have another type of pain, which is called like visceral pain, like if you're having a heart attack or you've got a stomach ache, something to do with the organs inside. And that is also telling you something's not good going on here. You need to give this attention. You need to take some action, or you need to, in the case if you got a tummy ache because you've eaten too much, you need to stop eating because your digestive system can't take it anymore. So you can have different types of visceral pain that have also a function that are alerting you that either something's not right or that you need to take some action to protect your body. There are also other types of physical pain which are non-nociceptors, so it's like neuropathic kind of pain, and sometimes to do with the nervous system and so on. So these are physical triggers. So we would expect that the majority of bodies on the earth, human bodies, will have a similar kind of reaction to these triggers, if you like. But then we have as much as the impulse goes from the point where it's hurt up to the brain, there is some interpretation in the brain about how bad is this, how serious is this, what do I need to do about this? And these psychological triggers, they are linked also to our culture, to our environment, to our conditioning, to our personal life experience. So it might be that somebody's had a negative experience with something in the past, in early childhood or something, and then every time that they see, for example, that object or something, they can have a reaction like of pain, and because of their history of their experience. But also, when we're talking about cultural environmental conditioning, when we think about, I talk about childbirth. Okay, I know that not everybody's had a baby in this life, but we think half the world are women, and about 75% of the women will have a child. That's a lot of people. And as spirits, we incarnate sometimes in a female body, sometimes in a male body. And that when we incarnate in a female body, there is a good chance that we will have experience in pregnancy and childbirth, because this is a very important opportunity for learning and developing that is given to us on this planet. So when you think about what are our cultural conditionings around childbirth, so in some countries, childbirth is seen as a powerful and benign event, and women are looking forward to it and excited about it. And it could be that in other cultures, childbirth is seen as a dangerous and painful event, and people are full of fear, and they are dreading going through it. So childbirth in bodies it's the same experience. I mean, of course, there are individualities, but we can see how the cultural and environmental conditioning will affect your interpretation of that event. And that is using the example of childbirth, but it could be for anything. So it could be that in some cultures, some event is more painful. And then I give you the example, if you have children, maybe this is quite comes to mind. When you have a little 2-year-old or 3-year-old, and they're walking, they're running, and suddenly they trip over and they hurt their knee. And they fall, okay, they feel some pain, they feel some sensations. And then they turn around and they look at the parent. Look at mommy's face or look at daddy's face or whoever. And they're looking for some clue. How bad is this? And then the mother goes, oh, my baby, starts crying and everything. And then the child starts crying too. And then they both cry. But if you say, oh, sorry, darling, you hurt your knee. Let's come and clean it. It's fine. It's all good. Then they will feel reassured that it's not that bad. And that's about the interpretation of, okay, it's a bit painful, but it's not that bad. And it's okay. We'll dress you up. You're all good. Okay, let's go on running again. So that kind of cultural element in which we are determining, we don't realize how strong the influence of the parents is on that young child in terms of interpreting what is dangerous, what is not dangerous, what's painful and what's not painful. That reminds me of another situation about what is painful and not painful, and interpretation is. In my job, I used to do a procedure where you prick a baby's foot and take 5 drops of blood on a card to assess for some conditions. And I was doing this for children that were already up to 1 year old. So sometimes they were more or less big enough. And I had to prick the foot. So it's a needle going in your foot, down the heel, to get some blood. Okay. So if I did that to you, okay, it would be a little bit painful, but mostly you could tolerate it. But some parents, I would say to them, how are you going to be with me doing this to your baby? And the mother would start crying, oh, you're going to make my baby bleed. It's going to be so painful. I said, look, can I say something? Maybe you're not the best person to be holding the baby at this moment. Maybe somebody else who is okay with it. Because if you start crying and you're starting to be really fearful, your baby is also going to start crying and being fearful, because the baby is made to mirror you and will take the cues from you. So sometimes we need to swap around, somebody else hold this baby. And I'll say to the baby, I said, look, I'm going to prick your foot. I'm going to take some blood. It's going to hurt a little bit, but it'll pass very quickly. And it's all for good reason, so that we can see if you need any treatments. Okay, so I explain all this, as I've just said it, to these nonverbal babies, because I do really totally believe I'm talking to the spirit that goes there. And I tell you, half those babies, sometimes they'll crumple up their face. Other ones, they don't cry. They don't cry. They're okay. And whoever's holding them, I say, you need to hold them, and you need to hold them with love and confidence and say, this is okay, you'll be okay, we've got you. Holding them and containing them in that way. Of course, some might be more sensitive and might have a tear or two and say, it's okay, darling. You know, the pain will pass quickly. We'll put a little plaster and you'll be okay. So from an early age, the environment, the family, those people around are giving indications to all of us as we are growing up about how to interpret this physical pain in our life. But let's go on a little bit. Let's see the next slide. This one. Okay, so this one is, sorry, this is a little bit of a joke here, but this came to my mind and I had to Google it, find it and put it there because this reminds me of my childhood. This is a little comic that used to be in Argentina, a little girl called Mafalda. Some people might know this joke. Anyway, there was a cartoon that used to come out. And I remembered exactly this cartoon and I was quite pleased to find it on Google. And so it says, and so how do I do to put this plaster on my soul? How do you put a plaster to make your soul better? It's talking about emotional pain. So if I do a prick your foot and we put a plaster on, of course a plaster doesn't make it better, but it's in a child way. We say we put a plaster on and it'll be okay. So how do I put a plaster on my soul? Because it is part of our humanity that our pain is not just coming from our body, but we talk about also emotional pain. Next slide, please. So let's think of some of the things that are the pain associated with the soul. And here I just put some, but we could have endless ones. So these are the ones that came to mind. And so separation, guilt, resentment, betrayal, jealousy, envy, fear. So how do these associate with pain? We're thinking about, we talk separation. Can be separation of somebody, an end of a relationship, somebody moving to a different country, somebody leaving this earth and going back to the spiritual world, separation because of impositions of society. And when we have a separation that we did not want and we find it difficult, it causes us pain. And we cry and we are upset and we are sad and we have pain. But also that we can see very much, we have a pain associated if we are, for example, jealous or envy, that almost the pain can almost kill us. And one of the things that occurs to me when I think about pain associated with the soul, and thinking all these things, they cause us real pain and like real, how can I say, difficulties. And one of the things that I think about is also, sorry, making these references to families and childhood, but if you've ever had a 2-year-old or thereabouts little child, and they want something and say, yeah, whatever, and you say, no, you can't have it, I'm sorry. And then they have a tantrum in which they start screaming and yelling and go into a rage and throw themselves on the floor because what they want, they can't have, and they don't have the power to get it for themselves because they're not in control. The parents, hopefully, are in control. Their real sort of rage and pain and their lack of control is like painful almost to watch. But it's for us to pick them up and hold them and help them to find a way out. Well, I will say that sometimes as adults, we can see that tantrum going on inside that adult. Well, sometimes it's going on the outside as well. Sometimes some people's pain is such that they get so angry that they throw things and that they lose their control. But can you think about the pain of betrayal of somebody that you trusted and somebody you had invested and you had shown your vulnerable side, and then they betray you? What kind of pain? The pain, what do we say? I was stabbed in the back. Because we then relate it to something physical that then we can relate to. And when we think about people who are jealous or have envy, I say, oh, I was so envious, it made me sick. but it made me green. Or thinking about resentment and saying, oh, I'm so angry, I could burst, or I could be apoplectic, or something like that. And guilt eats me up inside. So can you see we're making associations with kind of physical sensations, because that's how we can relate to it better. But what the spirits suggest to us, and of course it is the truth, is that the pain associated with the soul, this pain is way worse than the pain from the body, making no kind of saying, and not minimizing any physical pain at all, but I'm just saying the pain associated with the soul is a pain that you carry for longer, and it's a pain that is more difficult to deal with. So let's have a look at the next slide, please. So I put this slide here just because it helps me to connect the idea that I am spirit in a physical body. But I have, as the spirits have told us, we have an intermediary body, which Allan Kardec called the perispirit, and that connects our spirit to the body, that envelops our spirit in the spiritual world. So when thinking about this connection of our body, our perispirit, and that the fact that we are spirit commanding all this, and that we are immersed in an environment, and that this environment is affecting us, so we can see that from there are coming the impulses of pain from the outside world that are coming in through our body, and that are affecting our soul, are impressing these impressions of pain that we have. They are coming through to our soul, but also the pain that we have in our soul is coming through on the reverse way and manifesting in our body. So we know that if we have emotional pain that we carry for a long time, we will end up having physical manifestations of it in our body. Some organs will become diseased, and people of different holistic orientations might make connections between certain emotions and certain diseases or illnesses. Doesn't important here which exactly, but just thinking that yes, if I am carrying those unbalanced and difficult emotions, if I can't process them, they will impact on my body, because it's a coming and going between the outside and the inside. So the physical pain is coming, if you like, from the outside in, from the body, and the emotional pain is coming from the spirit to the body. It's going in opposite positions. So this is affecting us. And as I said before, we can't really expect to be on earth and not have any level of pain. But why is that? Because pain is helping us. So it's talked about the physical, that the pain is protecting us from harming our body or alerting us that there is an issue that, in our body that needs attention. But what about the emotional side? What is our emotional pain? How is that helping us? And it's helping us to re-educate ourselves, or better, to educate ourselves. Because it was saying, if I have been betrayed and I feel like I've been stabbed in the back and I feel this deep sorrow and pain, that is teaching me not to do this to somebody else, because it's not nice. And if I don't like it for myself, let me not do this to somebody else. And so in this way, we are learning from what happens to us, so that we can learn not to do this to others. Because at the end of the day, the things that harm us are the things that we do. The things that others do to us, they harm them. I know that sometimes it's difficult to accept this and say, no, but they hurt me. Yeah, but their hurt that they can give you is a temporary hurt, because you can forgive them and that can be released. But what you do, it will give you guilt, and it will give you a guilty conscience, and then you will have to deal with that, and you will need to re-educate it. So when we're here on earth and we are in a process, let us think that we are in a process of evolution, and we are learning. And sometimes we learn a lesson and we think, yeah, I've got this. I passed this test, good on me. But then it will reappear in our lives later on. And sometimes we don't pass. Well, are we going backwards? No. It's that we thought we'd pass, but not quite ready yet. So it doesn't matter, because we will all evolve. The law of progress says we are all destined to perfection. We are all created simple and ignorant. There are no special people. Everybody is special. We will start from the same point, and we will all reach the same point, except we are all at different times in our evolution. I sometimes compare our evolution to try to make it sort of comparable to me, and my people who know me know I always use these examples. You say, if you got a green banana, you can't make it yellow in a second. It needs a time to mature. It needs the sun, it needs the nutrients, and it will naturally come to that maturement. As spirits, we will naturally mature by the environment, by the situations that come our way. We can accelerate it a bit if we are focusing our attention to try to do our best. But one way or the other, we will all progress. And we are, for today, the best versions of ourselves. So if we're not too happy with the way we are today, let us just consider that we weren't that good last time round. So we're doing better, and we will always be doing better, because that is the law of progress, as said in the Spirit's book. But let us think of something else that causes us afflictions. Can I have the next slide, please? So when we come into this life, and this is in the Gospel according to Spiritism, this is explained really nicely. It says we can have, we come into a world of afflictions, but we can have past or present causes of affliction. So when we come into life as a little baby, we can be bringing with us certain lessons that have a reason to be there, because it's something we're bringing from our past. We forget our past when we are incarnate. Doesn't matter. So if we have, and I just want to talk a little bit about the law of action and reaction. And it really gets me in the wrong way when people are like action and reaction. They're still sort of in a mosaic kind of law, or they wanted to go an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. The law of action and reaction, God's law, is not that black and white. It's all full of different nuances. So we never know exactly. But if we have issues from the past we need to address in this life, they will come through quite often. They can come through in our DNA. They come through in our body to help us. So we might have restrictions or limitations, or we might have potential for disease in our body that might cause us afflictions. But we also have the present causes of afflictions. And the example they give, so if I eat too much today, if I eat very fatty food and lots of beer or something, I will get a tummy ache. So that's no divine intervention. That is a result of my actions. And I have caused this affliction to myself. So depending what I do, I can cause myself pain by my behavior. So then I can say, I will try to eat less, or I'll try to have a healthier diet, and then hopefully I will not suffer from abdominal pain. Or you can do other examples as well. So sometimes we are causing our pain today. So sometimes some people, and like Divaldo always talks about it, lots of people talk about it, we're talking about our levels of consciousness. I always remember back in the 1970s, my father had cancer. He had cancer, amongst other, of the lungs. And he went to see the oncologist. And the oncologist who was going to provide the radiotherapy for his lung cancer was smoking. And on his desk, he had an ashtray. So this is a lack of consciousness. He is an oncologist. He is treating lung cancer, yet he is smoking. Nowadays that doesn't happen anymore, hopefully. But in those days it was. So what is that telling me? He knows that smoking causes cancer. He sees the patients with cancer, yet he can't really incorporate that into his own behavior, because yet he smokes. So there's no point everybody telling him, oh, you shouldn't smoke, you shouldn't smoke. He needs to have that consciousness, that to awaken, to say, yeah, smoking causes cancer. I'm not doing it anymore because I choose to have healthy lungs. That has to be a choice that comes from within. So sometimes people want to help their family, their neighbors, their loved ones to have a better life and, impose it. So you can provide a good, healthy environment, but the consciousness comes from within. And that person needs to awaken as maturing to realize. And when that happens, it's very easy to stop having these behaviors that cause you pain. But if you're struggling with it, it's because that penny hasn't dropped yet, as we say. You're still trying to really awaken the consciousness regarding that question. So we know that from nowadays that, you come into an incarnation with a body, you come in with potential for illnesses already in your DNA. But now epigenetics tell us that not everything is set in stone. So you might come in with a potential for diabetes or something, but you might choose early on to have a healthy lifestyle. And that potential, that they call the gene turns off, and you might not develop that illness. So you might save yourself a lot of pain, of physical pain, of illness, because you have made positive action. So it's always thinking about our body is coming in with some potentials, but we have all the time, we are interacting and making decisions which might cause us pain or not. But one thing we say, it's like we will all make mistakes, and we just have to accept that, because we are not perfect. We are not perfect because here we are in a it's next slide, sorry. Next slide. Maybe. Joe, next slide. Okay, never mind. So it says, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. So we live on Earth, our beautiful blue planet, blessed planet where we have this life. But this is a land, an Earth, a planet, what the spirits say, of tests and expiation, tests and atonement. And they say we are progressing and we are moving up in the scale of worlds to one of regeneration. But the world that we've been living in is a world of where there is a lot of pain, because the pain is helping to re-educate us. So we cannot be free of pain. We will have pain somewhere along the line, but we can reduce the amount of pain we have by trying to make better choices. But we will make mistakes, and through the mistakes we will learn, because this is a school, and we learn through our mistakes. So sometimes when we make a mistake, so if we think like sometimes a small child, if they make a mistake, they're really upset and they cry, and their pride is hurt. So their pride hurts more than the mistake they made. So we are working with that as well, accepting where we are in the world, what is our position in evolution, and really starting to awaken and to get to know ourselves. And so saying, if something didn't work out, say, reflect on it. What could I have learned with that? Let me see, if this happens again, how could I do this differently? Or what was good or what was not so good? Without chastising yourself, without being angry and say, oh, I couldn't have done that, I should have been better than that, what an idiot I am. No, saying, okay, I haven't got that yet. I need to be looking at this to see how I can improve with this. And just having a more loving relationship with ourselves and with our learning. So I put this, just taking this from the Gospel according to Spiritism as well. So the Spirit suggests to us in question 625 that Jesus is our model and our guide. So saying, the same way he said, everything I do, you too can do and more. He's showing us the level at which we can arrive here if we follow what he taught us. We struggle sometimes to understand what he taught us because it's been caught up in religious teachings and politics and all kinds of different things, and used for not necessarily good intentions. But we can go back to what Jesus taught us and take the essence of it and try to see what was he trying to tell us. So first it's telling us, in my Father's house there are many mansions. There are many different types of worlds. And so if we are in this world, it's because this is the right world for us. We're not in the wrong world. And if we think everybody else here is no good, what, are we the only saint here? And then think about, okay, so we can start to get to know ourselves a little bit better and think about, where are we putting the focus of our attention? When we have pain, if we focus on our injury, on where we have the problem, our pain is exacerbated. If we move our attention elsewhere, then the pain will still be there, but it won't be occupying our mind as much. So we can be looking at living on earth and trying to see, where do we want to put our focus? But also, strangely enough, Jesus says something which is, blessed are the afflicted. So I'm thinking, yeah, we are the afflicted. We are afflicted by physical problems. We are afflicted by emotional problems, by society problems. And the moment we are very afflicted with this virus that has come and caused us to stop our normal life. And sometimes we are in pain because we can't do what we want to do. We can't go where we want to go. And this is causing us emotional pain and frustration, just like the child that's having a tantrum because they can't do what they want to do. They're thinking, okay, so this is being brought to us as a lesson. And if we don't look and see, what am I learning from this? What happens with the lesson if you don't learn it? It will repeat. God's not in a hurry. Repeat as many times as necessary. So when it says blessed are the afflicted, means that while we're going through the problems and the pains, this is teaching us something. Of course, if the pain is like really serious pain and you can't think, you're thinking, what is this teaching me? You have to focus at the right time as well. But it's saying, so this situation that's coming to me is causing me pain. And let me see, what can I learn? What can I take from it? So that it's not a useless kind of pain, but it is a pain that has an intention, a usefulness. So let's just go on to the next slide, please. So I was thinking about pain. It came to mind the word sister pain. St. Francis of Assisi, he talked about sister pain. When we talk about pain, like sister pain, it already doesn't hurt as much to me. And some things I say, okay, I have pain, physical pain, I have emotional pain, or quite often all mixed up together. So what do I need to do to deal with this pain? I need to have a belief, a faith, that there is a purpose to my pain, that this is not just for nothing, that there is a lesson in it, that there is a usefulness in it, that there is something that it has a function. At the same time, I need to accept my pain, say I have pain, and look at it, and not sort of pretend it's not there, whichever it is, and then take action. So what is that action? So if I have a physical pain, I can take action by taking painkillers. But if I take painkillers without really sort of thinking about why I've got that pain, what that's meaning to me, what's this lesson, I might defeat the purpose. I'm not saying you shouldn't take painkillers. I'm all for painkillers. But just saying, okay, I'm taking painkillers, I'm removing this pain, but I'm removing this alert. So I need to keep it in my mind and think, okay, what is this teaching me? If I have a sore tooth and I take painkillers, the pain will go. But the infection in the tooth hasn't gone. It's still there. I need to take action. I need to go to the dentist and see what needs to be done. It needs to be repaired or something. So just taking the painkillers, it alleviates the pain, but it doesn't resolve the issue. So we need to be thinking, what other action do we need to do? But what if it's an emotional pain? What action can I take? So here it's of great value to take action through prayer. Prayer connects us with God, connects us with our spiritual family, brings us intuition, brings us comfort, can alleviate the pain, can take the edge off. Sometimes it doesn't remove the pain, but it can make it so that it's not so desperate. It can help us sometimes to understand why are we having this pain? So with prayer, I would talk about meditation. So if in prayer we talk, in meditation we listen. So listen to, what is this? Question yourself, where is this coming from? Why am I having this? What can I learn from this? And when we're learning about our pain, thinking, okay, so self-knowledge, self-awareness, I can see this is where this is coming from, and just start pulling that thread just to look a little bit more under the carpet of what is the source, our difficulties of our soul. Because we present to the world with a mask, very nice sort of presentation, but what goes in our heart and our soul, really, really, only we know. We don't show it to the world, but we need to get to know it. We can't be believing the mask that we present. We need to be in touch with our true being and really identify where are our difficulties that we need to be working on, because we are work in progress, if you like, in terms of perfection. Through assisted pain, we can learn discipline, resistance, resisting things that are causing us pain, trying to look at things in different ways. There are many different ways that we can take action to deal with our pain. Emotional pain sometimes requires to go to therapy or to speak to a friend. Whatever different methods you want to use, it's worthwhile. So you don't want to have the pain and then just be like, it's not about being masochistic and taking the pain and just saying, oh, I'm suffering, so that's good for my evolution. No, the pain needs to have a meaning. It needs to have a function. So let's try to find out what it is and how we can take this forward. So next one, please. So this is my last slide. So it just comes, okay? So if you have pain, remember that each dawn is a new day and that no pain lasts forever. But if you are in pain, it might seem that it lasts for an eternity. But there will come a dawn when your pain will pass, when you don't need it anymore. And this might be in this life, or it might be in the next. But you will know that one day it comes. And sometimes when, like women in childbirth, they're feeling, let's say they're expressing that they're feeling a lot of pain. And they say, how long? If it's only another half an hour, I can do it. But if it's another 24 hours, I can't do it. How long can I take this pain? So know that no pain lasts forever. That God is love. And God is given us pain as an instrument of progress and of protection for our body. So that pain is our sister, not our enemy. So that we can work together and see what sister pain is bringing us in terms of our needs. I hope that these words there might have been useful for you to think about pain in your life and consider going back to the very first thing I ever said was the pain is what the person says it is. Only you can know about your pain. Nobody else can tell you if your pain is too much or too little. Only you know that. But only you will also find a solution of how to live with your pain, overcome it, or let it do the work of progressing your soul that you need at this time. I hope this is useful for you, and thank you very much. You're mute.
Yes, thank you so much. And that is so much for us to think about it. And I think it's so appropriate that you have chosen this topic to talk about it today, because as we know, the whole world is in pain. And it has been difficult for everyone to deal with that: emotional pains, physical pains, spiritual pain. And we have a few questions, if I could start asking you.
Yeah.
Well, one of them actually is related to what we were just talking. Could we call this crisis a sister pain?
Yes, I think so. So I think we I'm not minimizing the crisis. I'm not minimizing anybody's pain. But this is a crisis that it's painful for us on many levels. If you get the virus, you will have pain. physical pain, for sure. It is a very serious disease, and you will have treatments, and hopefully you will get better. Not everybody will get better, but the majority of people will get better. But it's also causing us emotional pain, because there is a lot of fear around, and there's a lot of worry, and there's a lot of frustration that our lives have now suddenly been taken away from us in a way. The way we used to live, we were quite happy or comfortable living with, while some of us, suddenly we can't live that way anymore. And then what do we do with this? So it is a kind of pain as well. So if we are not thinking about, let me see, what can I learn from this situation? How can I adjust and adapt? If I'm just being angry and upset, I'm going to be ending up ill as well, not with the virus, but with some psychosomatic disease.
Mm-hmm.
So acceptance is really important. We need to accept there is a pandemic, there is a virus out there, and it's affecting us on many levels. So it is really, I would call it like sister pain, because it is causing us pain on different levels. And I find myself sometimes not coping so well. So I always say, it's you can talk the talk, but do you walk the walk?
Yeah. Okay, we have another one here. The to withstand pain has anything to do with spiritual involvement, either physical or emotional or spiritual pain.
Yeah, so spiritual pain, yeah. Physical pain, I would say that, our bodies are bodies, and it's our interpretation of pain which will make it worse or more tolerable or less tolerable. When we have pain with fear, or we have pain with resentment, or pain with anger, the pain is worse. So then you talk about the moral involvement. So if we have acceptance that even if we don't understand 100% why this is, but this is obviously God's will, there is a plan out there, there's a bigger picture that I perhaps not able to see at this point, but I accept that this is something that is beneficial for me, and that is why God has provided it for me, then that takes an element of the pain off it. So the more involved spiritually somebody is, the more they are accepting of God's will, the less they're fighting. If we go back to the example of the child having a tantrum, when we are very young spiritually, we are the kids having the tantrums. But as we grow up, we accept that what our parents are deciding is for our best interest. So it's similar in a way. So as we progress spiritually, we can accept better that things are not necessarily how we want them to be, but how it's necessary for them to be for us.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Another one that Glaucio asked, how to manage the pain of being separated from and unable to assist our loved ones in times of crisis.
So I wonder, is it talking about being separated, like being in different places, yeah? So like different cities or different countries and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, of course, we want to be there. We want to hug and be with people. So I think, the blessing we have in this moment that we have this crisis is we have this technology, which is not perfect, but we can talk to people, we can see them, we can FaceTime them, and we can make an effort to do that every day. We can connect with our loved ones through prayer. We can also visit our loved ones. When we sleep at night, we can meet. And if we suggest that idea to our loved ones, is that I'll see you tonight in the spiritual world, because we are spirit, and when our body sleeps, we are free. So we are only sort of prisoners of our body during our waking state. So we can go and hug and be together. Although when we come back, we might not have a clear memory. Sometimes say, I dreamt that I saw my mom and I gave her a hug. And I felt so real. Well, maybe it was real, because the spiritual world is real. But when it comes through our memory into the material world, it's in a confused state for us. So we can use these different things, and knowing that not everything will have a limit of time. Nothing will be forever. And then that will help us also. But I think to find ways to communicate is, essential. And each family, each loved one, they will find their own ways of what works for them. Our family, we've developed on a Sunday, we do a family quiz. So I have family in Brazil, in Miami, in San Francisco, in London, in Germany, and Sweden, 6 countries. So we all come on the Zoom and we do a family quiz. And we all, we're chatting to each other. And we never used to do that before. It was a crisis that made us think of a way of coming together. So it was just spontaneous, like the young ones suddenly say, oh, in England, we like quizzes. Yeah, so we like to do a family quiz. It's like somebody organizes, asking questions, and we make up the teams. And then we could suddenly feel connected. Maybe it's only for an hour, 2 hours, but it really sort of built that connection.
Wonderful. We have a question for Christian as well. Acceptance is a hard concept for so many. Is there anything you recommend to become more accepting of a hardship?
Okay, yeah. So acceptance is a very personal thing. And if you think that something is really hard that's happening to you, then it's different ways how you can think about it. But you think, okay, I don't want this happening to me, but could this be happening to somebody else as well? And then could that open up my empathy for my neighbor who I never realized might be going through a similar situation? And when I accept, is one of the things I can put it like this is we have this sort of struggle with our ego, and our higher self. And acceptance is the ego has taken command. When we accept, the ego comes out of the center and God goes in the center. The way sometimes I think about this, putting God in the center, God is the boss. I mean, I don't like to sort of make it sort of like humanize it like that, but it works for me. So I'm not the boss. So I accept that somebody else is in charge. God is in charge and they have the overview plan. So I accept that I can't see the whole picture. When I start to work it like that, it works for me. Okay, I can't see the whole picture, but there must be a picture. There is a plan here somewhere, and I accept God's will. When you accept God's will and you accept that God is at the center of your life, but God inside, everything becomes lighter because you give it to God. You take away, in a way, the responsibility for fighting and everything. I say, let me do what you want me to do. And it connects very much to this idea of St. Paul, when he says, it's no longer I who lives, but Jesus who lives through me. And when Jesus said, I and the Lord are one. So that for me is that you are in connection with the divine and that the divine is flowing through you and it's not your ego that's taking command of things. And then you can accept better because they are not coming from a place of the ego, if that makes sense. I don't know if I explained that very well, but
Absolutely. We have more of a physical pain question. What about phantom pain? One that people feel on a part of the body that no longer exists.
Oh my gosh, this is a very interesting question. And I've asked my daughter, who I think is watching here, who did neuroscience, what about phantom pain? So I think there are 2 elements. Phantom pain is real, okay? So people do feel phantom pain. It is not in their imagination. There is perhaps on a physical level, there is an explanation, which I don't know if this is the only explanation, but that the nerve, for example, if you have, let's say, an arm amputated, so the arm is no longer there, but the nerve that came down and served the arm and that was severed here, then that nerve carries on growing. So here, going here. So that sometimes by touching here, you have the impression of touching the hand because the nerve is still stimulating the brain, the image of the arm, because your brain doesn't recognize the arm is not there anymore. Of course, from a spiritist point of view, we have our perispirit, which is like a copy of our body. And also we know that we know very little about the perispirit. If we know very little about the human body to begin with, the perispirit even less. we can think of our physical body as a whole universe. A universe where we've got trillions of bacteria living in our gut, making our life possible, that we were not even suspecting anything much about it until a few years ago. Where we have all these cells that are renewing themselves. We have this massive communication. It is literally like a universe, our whole physical body. Yet sometimes we think of our physical body like a doll, like something quite sort of, plastic or something like that. So our perispirit, or our spiritual body, is connected at the level of the molecules. That's what they say in the Genesis. So it's very intimate connection. And when we detach and go back to the spiritual world, we take our spiritual body with it, because that's inherent to us. So the things that happen in our physical body will be impressed there as well. Which things like sometimes people in the spiritual world present with amputations, with blindness, and just thinking, why is that happening? Because they don't have that physical body anymore. But because that was imprinted so strongly in them that when they think of themselves, that's how they identify themselves. But going back to the phantom limbs, so that is a topic that in lots of universities they study, because it is very distressing for you. For example, if let's say you've lost an arm and you had a lot of pain here, and you cut it off and you still have pain. That is really distressing. And so you're thinking, this is something that we are still trying to find the details of how that works. So this idea that perhaps the brain is not recognizing that the limb is gone, so that the brain still feels it, and there's some nerve impulses from those nerves that would originally have served the brain that have been severed, that can still feel and send sensations to the brain. But yeah, it is a topic of which I am a little bit, I only know tiny bit, and I think there's still a lot to learn.
But was absolutely enlightening, because you touched both the physical perspective and the spiritual perspective. So it's just great. I have just one more question. RK is asking, what to say to someone in a nice way that keeps saying they have a problem with envy and jealousy. I was told to pray to God to take those feelings out of their hearts.
Okay, so I'm just thinking, so you're talking, am I talking to the person who has the jealousy or the envy, or this person wants to talk to another person who has envy and jealousy? I wasn't quite clear about that.
Yeah, it's not specified here.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so let's say, pray to God, ask it. So a person is saying they have an issue with envy and jealousy. Okay, so that's really good that they've identified this. This is the first step to deal with something, is to know you have it, because the majority of us, we are in the world of illusion, and we think we're okay. We haven't actually seen our envy or our jealousy or whatever that's hidden from ourselves, because we look in the mirror, we see our mask, and we think, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm good. So if I say, okay, I have an issue with envy and jealousy, so I say, let me go to the root of this. Where is this coming from? All these characteristics, envy and jealousy and whatever, they do sometimes have an origin which was useful for us at some point in the past. Yeah, so they might have saved us and helped us to progress, to survive. They might have had a function. So we want to say, okay, when I feel, let's say, jealousy, I'm thinking, oh, my neighbor has a beautiful house with a swimming pool. I wish I had that house as a swimming pool too. Why don't I have it? Why do they have it? That kind of thing. Saying, okay, it's good to aspire to have things if that's what you think is going to make you happy. So it helps you to identify that you would like to go along that pathway. So I think you have to be exploring, or what is this actually really saying to you? Rather than putting it in a biblical kind of, this is bad kind of jar, but saying these are normal human emotions. So, but what is it telling me about who I am and where this is coming from? And how do I need to adjust this so it doesn't cause me pain? Because the pain of being jealous or envious is a real pain. It just causes suffering to people. But I don't want to suffer this. So how can I really understand it and look at it? So the books of Joanna de Angelis, which I believe are also in English as well, they can give us lots of clues. And quite often in psychology, things are, we only have half things presenting. The other half is hidden in our subconscious. So we really need to dig a little bit deeper and thinking about what is it. So you keep saying, when you say something, you're saying, but why, but what, where does this come from? This inquiry of really digging a little bit deeper to try to really understand where it comes from. But a lot of these, let's say, shadows, they come from a place where they actually served us. They served us for our survival a long time ago. And perhaps now it's time that we can release them because they don't need to define us anymore. So it is a work that's not going to be done in 5 minutes, but it's a work that we need to do for life.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for everyone that is watching and that has been following us. Next week, we will have again another guest speaker to talk to us about a different subject. So stay tuned. We will be sending information. And now, and if you don't mind, would you mind doing the final prayer for us?
With pleasure. So at this moment, I'd just like to connect with all of you, and that together we connect to God. God, Creator, Father, presence of love and light in our lives. Help us, Lord, to understand each day a little bit more about our needs and how to fulfill them, but also the needs of others, our brothers and sisters on the pathway, extending love and solidarity all around. We pray, Lord, for those who are suffering more even than we are, for those who are in hospitals, in intensive care, those who are struggling to breathe the essence of life, those who have nothing to eat, those who are suffering violence, wherever our brothers and sisters are in pain or suffering, may your angels visit with consolation and hope through the hands of the incarnates and the voices of the spirits. May we all come together to work in bringing this planet into a higher place, where love and fraternity, solidarity and light, health and peace become the norm. Until that day, Lord, give us strength and purpose and commitment to keep focused on our pathway, with gratitude in our hearts for all we received, for all that you offer us. We thank you, Lord. Amen.
So thank you so much. And for all the mothers throughout the world, happy Mother's Day tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
Right? It's going to be a different one, but still we are going to all to be united by our hearts. Thanks for watching again, and until next Sunday.
Okay. Thank you very much, Susanna.
Thank you.